George Adam.
Ms Smith, by welcoming the actual Pathfinder project, you welcomed that as well, because that is part of the actual project itself. But Presiding Officer, can we actually get to this place where we say that I believe that GIRFEC is the way forward for all our children, to make sure it's a basic human need to make sure that everything's okay for our children. And in no way does the named person replace the role of a parent or carer, nor does it undermine our families. In fact, the named person may provide much needed support during very difficult times. No family or individual can deal with challenging circumstances on their own. Of course, children and parents have no obligation to use the service, unlike what was said earlier on today, or take up advice or help offered. That alone dismisses one of the many myths that have been created regarding this issue. I believe that this is the right policy, and I believe it's the right way forward. Every child should have a safe and stable environment to grow up. I was lucky to be brought up by a loving and caring family, and I'm sure most people in this room also benefited from a stable family life. However, not every child has a safe and secure home. Not every child in the real world has a situation where they have that love and support. And when that difficult time comes, then it's down to having a named person to help during that situation. Now, as much has been said, I think Mr Gray brought up about the Declan Haney case. Now, that happened within Paisley, and I don't believe that any legislation, regardless of what you do, will stop people doing bad things. It's inevitable that there will be, but you've got to do everything you can to make sure that these things don't happen. And when I read the reports when I was a councillor and later on in the Declan Haney case, the situation was that you had no one who took up the responsibility of that child. No one was legislated, both health and social care were actually to blame at various points in that whole case. And I read the reports from one cover to the other. No one was to actual blame. The problem was there was no individual whose responsibility was to make sure that was okay. And that, to me, shows the need for the named child, because the named person's role is to provide, respond to requests to help children and young people, person or parent, is to provide that type of support. I don't believe it's going to be the situation of deciding what television shows they're going to watch and some of the scare stories that have come out here as well. But recently I was contacted by our local newspaper, the Paisley Daily Express, and they were talking about, I know this debate isn't about foster parents, but they were starting a campaign in Renfrewshire Council to get more foster parents, because I believe it's important that we give every single child. That's why I believe totally in the GIRFEC policies, and that's why I was quite happy to give them a quote supporting Renfrewshire Council and their 712 children that they support, to try and say that they had this opportunity to promote this further. Now, for me, Presiding Officer, I think we have to get away from the scare stories. I think we have to move away from the so-called myths that, a named person does not replace, I think I've said that, change the role of a parent. And the named person approach is not new. It's not something that just came out of the blue. It's something that's been part of a concentrated project, which Liz Smith previously supported, but it doesn't appear to do so now. So I say, Presiding Officer, for me, this is a very important issue. It's part of GIRFEC, and it's also the reason why we need to make sure that we never have these situations again where young children end up in a position where they're left, or the tragic circumstances that sometimes has happened. I have been disgusted with the tone that the Tory party have brought to this debate, but I'm not surprised, because they're dealing with they're appealing to the basic common denominator here, and that's very disappointing in this debate. But what I will say to finish, Presiding Officer,
close, please.
This is the way forward to make sure that we do get the opportunity to make Scotland the best place for children, all children, to grow up in.
Thank you.